Okay, the next operation for changing data is the update operation, which allows us to modify tuples in place. So the modification operation in SQL is introduced by the update keyword, and we say what table we're trying to modify tuples from. Then we need to say how we want to modify the tuples. That's introduced by a set clause, and we also need to say which tuples we want to modify. Now, if you omit the where clause, like we had with deletion, then the update operation affects all the tuples. If you give a where clause, you can say that you only want to change a certain set of tuples, and potentially you can restrict that to just one tuple. So, for example, if we wanted to update the R relation and set the value of x in this tuple to be 5 rather than 4, then we could say I want to set the value of the x attribute to 5, and I want to do that where the current value of the x attribute is equal to 4. So that would change this tuple here, and its new value would look like that. Now, of course, what would happen if I tried to change the value? Oh no, that was the tuple I wanted. If I wanted to try and change the value to 2, then we got a problem, because we've already got a tuple with 2 as the x value, so we can't have 2 tuples with an x value of 2, because the values in the x column have to be unique. So if I tried to do this, that update would fail, and we'd end up with the table not being changed at all. So we had something like that. Now, I guess it's probably important to point out that these two equals have different meanings. This one is basically saying set, so this is like an assignment equals, and this is obviously an equality test in the where clause. So you can work out which operation is relevant based on the context. Maybe slightly confusing that we've got those two equals. All right, now you can modify multiple tuples at the same time. So what I could do is say set the z value. Let's change the whole thing. So I want to identify a group of tuples. So let's say we're only interested in changing the tuples where x is greater than 2. And what we want to do to all those tuples is set their z value to 4. So if I was to execute this update statement, it would search through the table, find all the tuples that satisfy the condition x greater than 2, which is those two, and would set their z value to 4. So the table would end up looking like this. Now, we're not having any problems with constraints, because the constraints only apply to the x column, so that update would always be successful as long as we don't change the x column. Of course, if we had a constraint on the z column and the value that we tried to set it to violated that constraint, then we'd potentially have a problem. And there's another way you could achieve that result, and this is an additional usage of the update statement. You can actually use the existing value and make a change to the existing value, and that becomes the new value of that attribute in all of the tuples that satisfy the condition. So remember that originally those were 3. If we do, maybe I should write them. So we scan for tuples which have x greater than 2, that's that one, and then we take the current z value, which is 3, and we add 1 to it, and that gives us 4, and we do that to all of the tuples that satisfy the condition. So you can base the new value on the old value of a tuple, and if you really want to, you could even use the value of a different attribute. So I could do something like this, x plus 1. So in that case, well, that would convert x as 3, so we get 4 there, and we'd end up with 5 here, because the value of x is 4. So update is quite flexible, but you need to be careful with your where clause to make sure that you correctly specify the set of tuples that you actually want to change. A very common way to use update is to change the value of a single tuple based on the value of a unique attribute. So rather than saying x greater than 2, doing something like x equals 3. So in that case, if I ran that statement, then this wouldn't get updated because it doesn't have an x value that's equal to 3. But it does have a z value that's equal to 3. Okay, so that's the update statement for modifying data in tables.